My name is Madeline Francek, and I play the stand-up bass and I sing.
My name's Lydia Francek, and yes, we are twins. And I play percussion and I sing.
My name is Emily Bassez, and I play the guitar, ukulele, and sing.
And I'm Kate Robertson, and I play uke and sing and bells and whistles.
Of course we can. In 2013, Kate and I were headed to Telluride Bluegrass Festival and had a spontaneous encounter with Lydia, who was...
Yeah, I was staying on my friend's friend's front lawn at the Bluegrass Festival. Didn't even have tickets to the festival.
The universe knew what it was doing somehow. And so we met, and Lydia was inspired by some of our recent travels in Brazil, because Kate and I had traveled in Brazil for about 6 months and brought lots of songs back with us, and we're really inspired musically. And Lydia invited us to come and stay at her twin sister Maddie's house on our way home. And we did, and those 48 hours were a really magical, special time that we started singing together just naturally. And we parted ways and didn't know what was coming in the future, but Maddie ended up moving to Austin because everybody's moving to Austin. But Maddie was on a musical mission. Not at the time.
Huh. Maddie moved to Austin to be with her punk band, Cactopus. You should look them up. They're awesome. And Emily and I had gone back to Brazil to do another kind of musical journey. And when Maddie moved to Austin, she was like, hey, I need a roommate. And we weren't in town at the time, but when we got back, we all started to hang out together. And we had a song that from when Emily and I were in Brazil, we recorded something. We asked Maddie to play bass on it, and then Lydia kept coming in town, and we would just kind of play farmers markets, and it evolved into this natural kind of coalescence of sound and of lyrics and personalities, and it's worked since then. 2015, right? You moved in 2015. Yeah, so it was like end of 2015 we became a band. 2016 we went on our first tour from Austin to Ithaca, hometown to hometown. We called it the Odyssey Tour, and it did happen in a Honda Odyssey, which was it did happen in a Honda Odyssey. And and so we just got back from our second tour, which was through Brazil, where we got to show our other hometown to the girls.
Yeah. We usually classify the music as multilingual folk and soul, so I'm going to choose those as the 3 words. And the name Ley Lines, it came up because of a poem that Kate had made that had the word ley line in it. And it's actually a theory that's of this pattern that when you put it over the planet is connecting places of spiritual significance as well as geographic significance. So Stonehenge and the pyramids in Egypt, there's kind of this pattern that connects all of them. And we've chosen that name because it speaks to the pathways, energetic pathways that we make as we travel, as we meet people and share our music. So we're building our own ley lines in some way.
Yeah, so the creation of field notes is quite different from what we're doing now, because originally it was just Kate and Emily as a duo, and they had all these songs that they'd written in Brazil and folk songs that they'd brought back from Brazil, and they started recording in our friend Seth's living room, and then it moved to a studio, and then Maddie got involved, and when I moved, it was a month before the album was finished, so I got to add a couple percussion and harmonies to the album, but it's a lot of people's individual songs that kind of came together in this collaboration. And then what we're doing now, because we're all songwriters, and now that we're like spending all this time together, we get to create in harmony, which is really beautiful. So we'll meet and people will bring poetry or like a melody or guitar chords, and the show's starting, so I had to get a little quieter. And create like in the same space and come up with new lyrics and new ideas together. And that's been a really fun process to see what comes up and what happens when we're all together in that process.
Sure. Yeah, we sing in Spanish, Portuguese, English, and French. And they're all parts of kind of our journeys in different places in the world. And so Maddie and I have traveled, and even we've all traveled in all different parts of Latin America, and been really impacted by, you know, the beautiful culture and the way of life that comes through language, and beautiful words that we might not use in English, and phrases that are just different and kind of expand our understanding of our own language. So we've just kind of started bringing our own poetry and translating into other languages, just because I think we believe that language really has the power to transcend the boundaries and countries and lines that we've kind of used to divide our world, and looking to really unify through song.
Yeah. So right before we were going to go on tour last year, Emily reached out to a friend of hers in Belo Horizonte named Leandro Castro, and he's a luthier and an instrument maker there, and she had gone to a university. She did her like last semester in Belo Horizonte, and he provided this like insane list of people and places and venues and just like where we should go. And so we kind of followed that, and Emily reached out to a lot of different people. I also had lived in Brazil, and so we reached out to all of our friends and family that we had there and just asked like, hey, we're going to be here, this is what we're doing. And so when we say self-managed, we mean that was like a self-directed. We decided the course of our path. We decided like where we were going to stay, how long, what types of shows we were going to play. A lot of it was like gifted to us because of people who were like, hey, I don't know who these like girls are, who this what this American band is doing. But so we played everywhere from like an amazing place in Florianopolis Gravador Pub, which has like world-renowned musicians. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Porto Alegre Gravador Pub that has like, world-renowned musicians come through, to tiny little towns and living rooms and all of, everything in between. And so we were really lucky to be able to kind of be at this stage in our music where we get to have such an influence on like what we're doing and a say on how we want to do it too. That's what we mean by self-managed.
Can I share one special story?
Yeah, of course.
So this one place that Kate and I had spent a lot of time, which is actually where donations of our single that we recently released called Respiração, we're sending part of the donations to that track to a central area of Brazil called Chapada dos Veadeiros. And because they recently suffered from devastating wildfires that took over, one of the most unique and rare biomes of the planet. And I had reached out to a friend that we made when we had been there, and she was just immediately like, confirmed a show, let's do it this night. And at the beginning of the night, I think Maddie and I had gone out to this parade that was happening in the street, and it was a free, just big celebration in the street, and we enjoyed that for a bit, and then we're like, cool, we need to go to the venue and get settled in. And we get there and no one is there. And I was just like, there's no one's going to come to the show. There's this huge thing happening in the street, and we've done all this work to try and get some people here and just see what happens. And we had this beautiful opener, Leonardo Fresanto, and he just blew us away earlier in the day with this performance. And so he opened for us. And then we got on stage, and there were more people creeping into the room, but it felt like one of those moments when we all just closed our eyes and sang the whole first song with our eyes closed. And by the time we opened them, the whole room was just full of people sitting. It was like a SoFar Sound show. It was like this show in the living room where people were just like eyes wide open and so blown away that, you know, we had traveled so far and wanted to share what we do. And so that was just like one of those remarkable moments of the show where you're like, yes, this is why we did this. So.
Yeah. So I remember we all came back from Brazil and we're like, people ask us, how was it? And we talk about how beautiful it is. Like, people seem to be more emotionally like open in Brazil, and they'll come up to us after the show like crying and want to hug us, and people will be silent the whole entire show. We'll do this thing where we all take a breath together, and like, I don't know, there was a sense of unity, and I think we all kind of came back thinking like, I'm really going to miss Brazil. Like, how are we going to find that here? Because a lot of venues here in Austin are like bars, and it's like not really about the music. It's about like just going out to be out. But I went to a SoFar Sounds show. A friend invited me. She's here tonight. She invited me like right when I got back from Brazil, and it was a late night show, which is not what they normally do. And it was in a bar, and it was like the same vibe as every other Austin show. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, I thought this was supposed to be different. So I met the guy that runs it and started talking to him about that, and talked to him about our band, and invited him to our show, our first show back from Brazil. And he asked, do you want to play a SoFar show in 5 days? And I'm leaving for Senegal in 2 days. So it just, yeah, so it fit. It just happened to like fit perfectly. And I talked to Zach, another guy that organizes it, and he's telling me about the vibe. And I'm like, intimate shows are our thing. Like, we got a whole crowd of 100 people at Radio Coffee and Beer to like shut up and take 3 breaths together. Like, I think we can handle a room full of quiet people. So we're really excited, and we're so excited for the opportunity to play. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think one of the main messages in our music is unity and sharing story and sharing experience of life, and how diverse that is across the planet, and how diverse the issues are, and how but the one thing that strings us all together is that we all share all of that, the challenges and the suffering and the joy and the ecstasy and everything that comes with life. So that is why our lives are just, they're based in that, and giving back to the community and making and creating thriving communities, and by bringing people together and being vulnerable. I think we called it like a fine line between vulnerability and confidence, and sharing that with the world brings us hope that we're giving other people the opportunity to do that and to rise into that.
So our new single is called Respiração, and it's one that I actually wrote because I have a day job, and in feeling kind of bogged down by circumstances in life that you can't necessarily control, or you perceive that you can't control. That there's always a way to kind of connect with nature, even if you're stuck inside, by recognizing that the same air you're breathing is what's blowing the wind, that what's the wind blowing through the trees outside. So that's what Respiração means. It's the breath. It means like respiration and breathing. And it's a reggae song. It has very like strong reggae vibe, but it also beautiful harmonies with these ladies. And it features a drum that Lydia brought back called the zabumba, also her talking drum called the tama, and it kind of sparked a different like movement in our music, and we are we're recording a new album from all of the footage that we took while we were in Brazil. So not only did we tour and play all these shows, we also had cameras with us, and we were capturing all of it, on stage, off stage, our life, and the people that we were able to meet and connect with. And so we're making a new album, a visual album. Every song will have a visual component to it, and we played some songs tonight that will be on the album. And we're in kind of content process mode. We've been apart for a long time, and right now we're just going through footage and writing songs and figuring out the idea for how we want everything to flow. But we're really excited to bring it to you guys so we can share our vision and our songs with you. Can you say that again? What you hope.
Yeah, we had this really beautiful experience, one of our shows in Brazil, where there were like young girls, maybe like high school age, that were freaking out. They were just like, I love you so much. Yeah. For me, it's really important that that we're 4 women, all playing instruments, all like being confidently like putting ourselves out there on stage, because it's something that's very rare to see, I think. And I think it's inspirational for young women to be like, yeah, you can do this too. Like, you can play instruments, and you can like be confident, and even like be like sexual. If you like, not that we'd necessarily like put that out there, but like, we can't help it. We're beautiful women, sensual. There we go. And yeah, just to be like proud of who you are and how you were born. And I think also like in our culture, at least, there's a culture of like competition between women. Women are often like pitted against each other. So to be working collaboratively in creating music and working through some of the competition that comes up, and like the cultural like nuances that come up with that, working through that and then like showing that to our audiences is like another way to kind of relearn the way that we relate to each other, and yeah, how to be together, how to be unified as women or men or people. Yeah. Yeah, what do you hope people get from our music?
I was thinking about this a lot, that like a lot of the new music we've been making, to me, feels like it's based on like the inspiration of a song will come from a prayer, like something that one of us makes that feels like a theme that we've been dwelling on. And just the idea of like performing and making an album is like an invitation to invite someone in to share in like the vulnerability of our own existence and the poetry that we express through that. And just hoping that in whatever that we're putting out there is being put out to give people an opportunity to sink into those same emotions. Like, even if the language, they don't understand the language or whatever it is, they're like invited into a space of prayer and intentionality that I hope like it can be just happening outside, like in the periphery, like driving in the car and you don't realize it, and it's setting an ambiance so you can close your eyes and listen to it deeply and like take part in it as well.
On our last tour, we had some really wonderful feedback too. We had somebody who played our CD when their baby was born, and then we also had somebody play our CD when their parent died and passed away. And so I think a type of music that can reach all across is really special, and I am incredibly grateful to be able to have this type of work in my life. And I think it just brings, what I want people to take away from the music is to listen, to just be to be able to listen, like what you're saying, like how we listen to each other. There's such a deep listening that happens when we perform, because we're all singing together. The sound guy was like, "So who's lead?" we were like, well, we all kind of share that. Well, who's going to be the lead for this song? Well, we're all kind of like rotate, and just it's a point of listening to the message that everybody has, giving space for that and supporting that. And I think that that's what makes this such a huge part of our lives.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to cut or if you can cut and paste, but on the question about giving back to the community, like our service, we've been blessed to be offered to serve community through many organizations, but it's just like that. It moves from youth to veterans to elderlies and retirement homes, and there is no limit to who you can empower by just really fully showing up, either with all your ears or all of your heart and what you need to say to somebody, just to free yourself of that. And so I think that's something that I just wanted to add, is like beyond empowering youth to be grown into a place of telling their story and sharing themselves with the world. That goes to those who have lived their whole lives without sharing their story and have come across an experience to share. So